Welcome back to our series, Mastering Azure Fundamentals. This is episode 11, and today we're doing a deep dive into cost management in Azure.
That's right.
We all know Azure's operational expenditure model, the OpEx model. It's super flexible. Lets you scale up, scale down.
Great flexibility.
But that same flexibility,
Yeah.
well, it means you really need to understand what's driving the costs. Yeah.
Absolutely. It puts the responsibility on us, really, to be smart about managing resources and just understanding all the different pieces that add up on the bill.
So think of this as, your guide to keeping Azure spending under control, avoiding those nasty surprises.
Exactly. So today we want to unpack those key factors, look at some really useful Microsoft tools for estimating and comparing costs.
Like the calculators.
Yeah, those, and also the main cost management tool itself. And critically, we need to talk about using tags. They're so important for organization and cost control.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Where do we start? The
Yes.
basic factors.
Let's do that. Foundational stuff. What actually goes into your Azure bill? First up, and maybe it sounds obvious, but it's the resource type.
Right. Azure has tons of services. Makes sense they don't all cost the same. Depends what it is, how you set it up.
And where you put it. The region matters too. The detail is, honestly, quite something.
Give us an example, like storage.
Yeah, storage accounts are a perfect example. It's not just storage. Is it blob storage, file storage, what performance tier, standard, premium?
Yep.
Then there's the access tier, hot, cool archive, redundancy, LRS, GRS, and like I said, the region. All these choices directly affect the price. It's layered.
Wow. Okay. Definitely not simple. And I guess it's similar for, say, virtual machines.
Exactly the same principle. The OS license you choose, the processor type, number of cores, the storage attached type and amount.
Network interface too, probably.
Yep, network interface, and again, the region it's deployed in. It's a whole list of cost drivers for just one VM.
So the takeaway is really understand the resource you're picking and why. Don't just grab the biggest VM.
Precisely. Match the resource to the job. Understanding that specific pricing structure for each service, that's key for efficiency.
Okay, so that's what we use. What about how we use it? Consumption.
Right, consumption, the pay-as-you-go model. It's brilliant because you only pay for what you consume, need more power, scale up, less, scale down.
But the flip side is you got to watch it right. Easy to leave things running.
Oh, incredibly easy. Resources left on, even when not needed. That happens all the time and leads to unnecessary charges. Requires vigilance.
Then there are reserved instances.
Yeah.
Rise, that's where you commit up front.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting for consistent workloads. If you know you'll need a certain amount of compute, say, for 1 or 3 years,
You commit to it.
and you can get pretty hefty discounts, sometimes up to 72% off the pay-as-you-go price.
72%. That's huge.
It is, but it's a commitment. If you suddenly need more than you reserved, that extra capacity, that's billed at the standard pay-as-you-go rate.
Ah, okay. So you need good forecasting.
You really do. Plan carefully to maximize those savings. And, a lot of people underuse their RIs.
Really? How so?
They buy them, but then their actual usage pattern changes, or maybe it wasn't quite right to begin with. So it's super important to regularly check your utilization reports and cost management.
See if you're actually using what you paid for.
Exactly. If you see consistently low usage on an RI, maybe you can exchange it for a different type that fits better. That simple check can save a lot of money.
Good tip. Okay, what's next? You mentioned maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance. Or maybe life cycle management is a better term. It's about what happens after you're done with the main resource.
Like when you delete a VM.
Right. You deprovision the VM. But what about its disk? Or its network interface, maybe a public IP. Those often don't get deleted automatically.
Oh, so you'd be paying for orphaned resources.
Precisely. Unless you regularly audit and clean up, you'll pay for storage, networking, whatever. That's not actually doing anything useful. It's like leaving the lights on everywhere. Big scale.
Okay, got to watch for those zombie resources. Next up, geography. Location, location, location.
It matters, both for performance and cost. Regional pricing differences are real.
Why, though? Is it just demand?
It's things like local electricity costs, labor costs, taxes, fees. All that varies region by region.
So putting resources closer to users might save money, not just reduce latency?
It potentially can, yes. Worth checking the pricing for different regions. And then there's network traffic. Moving data around costs money.
Data transfer costs, ingress, egress.
Exactly. And it depends where the data is moving. Within the same region or availability zone. Cheaper. Across regions. More expensive. Across continents. even more.
So those Azure billing zones are important to understand.
Very important, especially if your app moves a lot of data. Thinking about your architecture to minimize that cross-region traffic can make a real difference to the bill.
Makes sense. What about subscription type? Does that play a role?
It can, yeah. Different subscription types might have slightly different pricing or offers associated with them.
Like the free trial.
The free trial is a great example. Perfect for learning. You get 12 months of free access to certain popular services, some starting credit to play with, and then there are those always free products too.
Right, within limits.
Within limits, and depends on the region sometimes, but yeah, it lets you experiment without that immediate cost pressure.
Okay, one last factor, the Azure Marketplace.
Ah, yes, the marketplace. Fantastic resource for third-party solutions, apps, services.
But they come with their own price tags.
Usually, yes.
Yep.
The cost typically includes the underlying Azure resources. The solution uses VMs, storage, etc., plus the vendor's charge for their software service.
And those vendor charges can vary.
They can vary quite a bit. Different billing models, so always read the pricing details carefully before deploying anything from the marketplace.
Okay, that's a lot of factors. Resource type, consumption, RIs, maintenance, geography, subscription, marketplace.
It is, but thankfully you're not flying blind. Microsoft provides tools to help estimate and track all this.
The calculators you mentioned earlier?
Exactly. The pricing calculator and the TCO calculator. Both online, free to use, just for information. No charges incurred by using them.
So the pricing calculator, what's its main job?
Its job is to estimate the cost of provisioning new resources in Azure before you actually build anything.
So I can spec out a VM, storage, networking.
Yep. Put in the details, size, region, performance tier, redundancy for storage, all that stuff, and it gives you an estimated monthly cost. Breaks it down by compute, the storage, networking.
Can you build like a whole solution estimate?
You can estimate individual things or piece together a multi-resource solution. They even have example scenarios you can explore. Super useful for planning.
Got it. Planning new Azure deployments. What about the TCO calculator, total cost of ownership?
TCO is different. It looks backwards in a way. It helps you compare running your stuff on premises today
Versus moving that same workload to Azure.
Exactly. You feed it details about your current setup servers, databases, storage, network bandwidth, even things like power costs and IT labor time.
And it crunches the numbers.
It does, and gives you a comparison highlighting potential savings from moving to Azure. It's a key tool for building up financial justification, that business case for migration.
Okay, pricing calculator for future Azure costs, TCO calculator for comparing on-prem versus Azure, clear distinction.
Makes sense.
Now, what about after you've deployed? Keeping track day to day, month to month. That's Microsoft Cost Management, right?
That's the one. It's built right into the Azure portal. It's your hub for monitoring spending, setting up alerts, and creating budgets.
Let's break that down. Cost analysis first. What does that give me?
Cost analysis gives you visuals, charts, and graphs showing where your money is going. You can slice and dice the data.
How so? By time.
By billing cycle, yeah. By region. By service, even down to individual resources or resource groups. You can see trends over time, see which department or project is spending what.
Compare spending against budgets.
Exactly. Track monthly, quarterly, yearly spend against the budgets you've set up. It really helps you understand those spending patterns.
Sounds powerful for just seeing what's happening. But what about stopping overspending before it gets out of hand? Cost alerts.
That's what alerts are for. Proactive notifications. Cost management centralizes these. There are three main types.
Yeah.
First, budget alerts. These are the most common. You define a threshold, say 80% of your budget.
Based on cost or usage.
Either, yeah, cost or usage. When you hit that threshold, an alert triggers. You can see it in the portal, and you can set up email notifications. You can create these in the portal or via API.
Makes sense. What are the other two?
Second is credit alerts. These are specific to enterprise agreements, EAs. They automatically ping the account owners when the monetary commitment credit hits 90% and then 100%.
Uh-huh. Like a warning for EA customers.
Right. And third, also for EAs, are department spending quota alerts. If you've set spending quotas for different departments in the EA portal,
You can get alerts when they approach their limit.
yep, you configure thresholds like 50%, 75%, whatever in the EA portal, and it sends email notifications to the department owners when those are reached.
So alerts notify you, but budgets actually let you set the limits themselves.
Correct. Budgets are where you formally set those spending limits. You can scope them pretty flexibly to a whole subscription, a resource group, a specific service type.
Or based on tags. You mentioned tags earlier.
Yes, you can set budgets based on tags too, which is really powerful. We'll get more into tags in a sec.
And when a budget threshold is hit, it triggers an alert.
It triggers a budget alert, yes, sends emails if you want, but budgets can do more. You can configure them to trigger automated actions.
Like what? Shutting things down.
Potentially, yes. You could trigger an Azure function or a logic app to, say, suspend VMs or modify resources when a budget limit is reached. It offers real proactive control.
Wow, okay. That's moving beyond just monitoring into active enforcement.
It really is.
This is all super helpful for managing the money side. Now, let's switch to organization. You keep mentioning tags. They sound simple, just labels, but you're saying they're crucial.
Absolutely crucial, especially as your Azure environment grows. Think about it, you might have hundreds, thousands of resources. How do you keep track?
Subscriptions and resource groups help, right?
They do. They provide that basic structure. But tags take it way further, much more granular. They're metadata key value pairs you attach to resources, like environment, production, or owner, Fin team.
So what are the big benefits? How do they help practically?
Okay, several key areas. First, resource management. Tags let you easily find and act on related resources. Find everything for a specific workload, or everything in the dev environment, or everything owned by a certain team.
Makes sense for just finding stuff. What about the cost side?
Huge for cost management. You can group resources by tag for cost reporting. See exactly how much the marketing campaign X project is costing.
Ah, so you can allocate costs internally based on tags.
Exactly. Internal chargeback or showback. You can track spending against budgets tied to specific tags. Improves forecasting, too.
You mentioned a story earlier, finding unused dev resources.
Yeah, that company. They tagged everything properly, especially with an environment tag, filtered their cost report by environment, development, looked for things running long with no recent activity, bang. Found over $10 K a month in waste they could shut down, just needed that visibility tags provided.
Wow, that's tangible savings right there. What else?
Operations management. Tag resources by criticality. Helps manage SLAs, plan disaster recovery, maybe tag things business critical.
Security.
Yep, security. Classified data sensitivity. Tag resources holding confidential data versus public data.
And governance, compliance.
Definitely. Governance and compliance. Identify resources that need to meet specific standards, like ISO 27001, or enforce internal rules, like making sure every resource has an owner tag and a department tag.
So tags support lots of different management goals.
They really do. One more. Workload optimization. Tagging by application simplifies visualizing things in Azure DevOps, enables automation. Lots of potential.
Okay, convinced. Tags are powerful. How do we actually manage them, add them, change them?
Lots of ways. PowerShell, Azure CLI for scripting, ARM templates if you're doing infrastructure as code, the REST API for programmatic stuff.
And the portal, I assume.
And the Azure portal, of course. User-friendly point-and-click for viewing and editing tags.
With all those options, how do you ensure people actually use tags consistently? Stop folks from forgetting or using dev when someone else uses development.
Ah, great question. That's where Azure Policy comes in. It's your enforcement engine.
Policy for tags. How does that work?
You can create policies that, for example, require certain tags to be present when someone tries to create a new resource. If the tag isn't there, the creation fails.
Oh, prevents untagged resources from even being created.
Exactly. Or you can have policies that automatically add default tags, or even policies that check existing resources and report on non-compliance. You can even have policies that automatically reapply a tag if someone removes it.
That sounds pretty robust for enforcement.
Yeah.
One thing, though, do tags get inherited? Like, if I tag a subscription, do all the resource groups inside it get that tag?
Good point. No, they don't. Tags are not automatically inherited down the hierarchy. A tag on a subscription doesn't flow down to its resource groups or resources.
So you have to apply them at the level you need them.
Correct. Which actually gives you flexibility. You can have different tagging schemes for different levels, subscription level tags for billing, resource group level for application, resource level for specific instance details.
Okay, so define a good tagging strategy, then use Azure Policy to enforce it.
That's the key. A well-defined, consistently enforced tagging strategy is fundamental for visibility, management, cost control, compliance, everything, really, as you scale in Azure.
This has been super insightful, really covered the landscape of cost management in Azure, understanding the factors, using the calculators, leveraging cost management tools, and especially nailing down that tagging strategy. It feels like the core pillars.
Absolutely. It's about informed decisions, not just cutting costs blindly, but getting the most value from Azure while staying within your means. These tools and strategies, they give you that foundation.
Definitely provides a strong basis for optimization and control.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, for everyone listening who wants to dig even deeper into Azure fundamentals, remember to check out our website at learnazureforfree.com.
Lots of great resources there.
And don't forget our book, Mastering Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, AZ900 Exam Prep. It's available on Amazon, and we'll put a link right in the description for you.
It's a comprehensive guide.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.